Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of Inspirations by Dr. Gail. I'm sending a special thanks and shout out to each of you who has emailed, texted, or phoned me to say that you've subscribed and are tuning in. Thank you for this encouragement. Today my topic is your big picture, starting at the end instead of the beginning. This is part 2 of the series titled Creating Your Roadmap to Success. Many years ago, there was a little girl who had numerous strikes against her. She had a lot of family problems. She was extremely poor. She flunked first grade. She thought she was dumb, and so did many of her teachers. Several teachers also thought that this girl talked way too much in class, and they used harsh punishment tactics to silence her. This student was clearly destined to fail in school and in life. However, when she became a 6th grader, everything changed. That year, she was blessed to have the teacher who changed her life. I was that child who had many strikes against me, and I thank God for blessing me with Mrs. Susan Tessum, my turnaround teacher, and she happened to be a white woman. Turnaround teachers are life-changing, powerful, influential educators who make a positive impact on their students. Researchers have found that these teachers and other turnaround adults are the main reasons why some children from challenging backgrounds, especially those who have experienced one or more adverse childhood experiences, turn out well as adults. Because of Mrs. Tessum's impact on my life, I wrote about her in my book, Through Ebony Eyes: What Teachers Need to Know but Are Afraid to Ask About African American Students. And in 2008, I interviewed Mrs. Tessum for my book, The Power of One: How You Can Help or Harm African American Students. Although that was the last time that I saw Mrs. Tessum, I've never forgotten her. During the professional development workshops, keynote addresses, and motivational presentations that I provide, I always tell audiences about her. My goal in doing this is to emphasize the power of one individual to change the life course of children who are desperately in need of turnaround adults in their lives. 10 years after I interviewed Mrs. Tessum for my book, The Power of One, I received a shocking telephone call from Costa Rica. The caller informed me that he was Mrs. Tessum's brother, and he wanted me to know that she had died. He also wanted me to speak at her memorial service in Costa Rica. So on October 28, 2018, I had the honor of explaining to Mrs. Tessum's family members, friends, acquaintances, former colleagues, doctor and attorney, the tremendous impact that this amazing teacher had on my life. Here are some highlights of my speech. I told the audience that Mrs. Tessum was the first teacher who treated me fairly and humanely. Prior to that time, like so many African American, Latino, and low-income students, I had been subjected to educational malpractice through low expectations and biased discipline practices. Mrs. Tessum constantly showed me that she genuinely cared about me. Although most of my previous teachers had viewed me as a failure, Mrs. Tessum believed in me and had high expectations for me. She also took me and her other students to her home, made homemade hamburgers and fries for us, and let us swim in her pool. I can only imagine how her neighbors in that upscale neighborhood in which she lived must have reacted to seeing these poor black kids invading their exclusive neighborhood. Mrs. Tessum was also strict. In the back of her classroom, she posted a sign that said, "Mrs. Tessum isn't always right, but she's always the boss." Mrs. Tessum let me sing in her school chorus. This was a big deal to me because during childhood, I was teased about my tenor voice, and one of my nicknames was Man Voice. I also told the audience that Mrs. Tessum insisted that I plan to attend college, and this was the main reason why I eventually went to college. By now, you may be wondering how a white woman could make such a strong impact on me to the extent that I'm still talking about her decades later. Here's how I explained it at her memorial service. Mrs. Tessum's effectiveness with me and so many other low-income African American students resulted from her core beliefs. Her mother, a third grade teacher, played a big role in shaping these beliefs. One of the main messages that her mother instilled in her was this: you treat every child as a precious mind, regardless of that child's background. Because of this, during her first years as a teacher in an upper-class, predominantly white school, Mrs. Tessum treated her students fairly and respectfully. Years later, when she began working at one of the worst elementary schools in San Diego, California, the low-income, predominantly black school that I attended, she treated us fairly and respectfully. Instead of lowering her expectations, abusing her power, and treating us in the same hateful manner that many teachers did, she behaved according to her core beliefs about her purpose. Her purpose was to provide all students, regardless of race or income level, with an education that could improve their lives. This is even more powerful when you realize what she told me when I interviewed her, and that was this. She told me that before she started teaching at Kennedy Elementary School, she had never met a black person in her life. Yet, she treated us fairly and humanely and better than every teacher that I had previously had ever treated me. During that memorial service, in addition to explaining Mrs. Tessum's core beliefs about her job as a teacher, I also told the audience about her long-term impact on me, the child who had many strikes against her, that child whom many viewed as a failure. I told them about some of my professional successes, including the fact that I was a public school teacher for 14 years, a university professor for nearly 20 years at public, private, elite, and research institutions. And during the last 5 years of that time as a professor, I was actually an endowed professor. By the way, an endowed professor is a professor who has perks, such as a travel budget, an assistant, and a reduced teaching load. Another success that I mentioned was that in order to address the shortage of African American and Latino male teachers, I created and directed a minority male teacher recruitment program. Because of the link between poor reading skills and prison incarceration, I created and directed the Literacy Club and implemented this after-school reading program at several schools. I'm also a critically acclaimed author of numerous books, articles, and essays, the former executive director of equity for a large business corporation, and currently as the founder and CEO of Inspirations by Gail LLC. I provide services and create resources that are designed to improve schools, universities, business corporations, and religious organizations, and also to help individuals who would like to become published authors. I ended my speech at Mrs. Tessum's memorial service with the following statements. Quote, like Mrs. Tessum, each one of us is a teacher because every individual who crosses our path is learning something from what we say, how we behave, how we use our titles, positions, power, influence, money, and resources, and most important, how we treat them. The amazing, awesome, phenomenal Mrs. Susan Tessum spent her life empowering me and countless others. For this reason, her legacy and impact will continue to improve the world, and I will continue to write and speak about my turnaround teacher. The question that I leave with you is, what will your legacy be? Unquote. Here's the main point that I hope that you'll take away from today's episode. No matter what you've been told or what you've been through, you have a God-ordained purpose. When you identify and understand your purpose and become passionate about it, you can have a positive impact on others. Stay tuned for this week's Personal Empowerment Challenge. This week's Personal Empowerment Challenge consists of journal exercises to help you focus on the end rather than the beginning or where you are today. By the end, I'm referring to the end of your life, including your memorial service or funeral. These exercises are also connected to your purpose, impact, and passion, which are important parts of creating your roadmap to success. In your personal empowerment notebook or journal, please do the following. Number 1, I call it your big picture exercise, and I often use this when I conduct professional development workshops. This exercise requires you to make a list of the main things that you would like to accomplish before you leave this earth. Your big picture exercise is designed to help you identify your purpose. What are the main things that you would like to accomplish before you leave this earth? Number 2, this exercise is connected to your purpose and impact. In your journal, explain your reasons for wanting to accomplish the things you listed in exercise 1. Number 3 is related to your impact. What impact are you making on the children and adults who cross your path in private, public, and professional settings? So for number 3, explain what impact you think you're making on the children and adults who cross your path in private, public, and professional settings. Number 4 is also related to impact. If these children and adults were asked to describe your impact on them, what would most of them say? And would you be pleased with their answers? Number 5 relates to your passion and purpose. In your journal, explain the following. If you didn't have to go to work or school each day, how would you spend your time? And what are the reasons why you would spend your time this way? Number 6, review your answers and explain what they reveal about your purpose, passion, and impact, and especially the areas that you can improve. Number 7 is challenging. In your journal, write your obituary. Write your obituary. In that obituary, explain what you would want people to learn about your life and impact on others at your memorial service or funeral. Explain what you would want people to learn about your life and impact on others at your memorial service or funeral. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you'll tune in next week to hear how well do you like and understand yourself. This is part 3 of the series, Creating Your Roadmap to Success. For more information about Inspirations by Gail LLC, please visit my website, www.drgailthompson.com. That's www.drgailthompson.com. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this podcast via my YouTube channel, Inspirations by Gail. If you're interested in the theme music for this podcast, please check out music by Aaron Nimbus on iTunes. In the meantime, please remember this: no matter what you've been told or what you've been through, you have a God-ordained purpose. When you identify and understand your purpose and become passionate about it, you can have a positive impact on others. Until next time, hugs and blessings. I'm Dr. Gail L. Thompson.